I think God is, and yet more than, a cultural construct. Each culture tries to name and describe its individual and collective experiences of God. And early Hebrew culture was no different. Although primogeniture, that lovely big word which means that the firstborn male inherits the power of the patriarch, although primogeniture was the norm, time and again it didn't happen. And so stories evolved to explain why it didn't, and why God didn't intervene to prevent what was unjust and destructive in patriarchal society. Stories evolved to explain why the eventual heir, the winner if you like, became the winner. In God's mouth was put the rationale of the winner. Yet also in these stories are hints that winning isn't everything. Isaac, though heir, would be a big loser, for he never gained his father's unconditional love and never learnt how to show and teach love to his children. In the next generation, as you may recall, Jacob tricked his firstborn brother Esau out of the inheritance. But Jacob goes on to live a conflicted life in a conflicted family, and in turn he bequeaths it on. What's so likable about Abraham is that time and again he questions the reasoning and integrity of God. This is how the Bible understands faith, not parroting creedal formulas, but courageously risking to question and to probe and to engage with the expanse of God. Abraham pushes at the boundaries of his culture's experiences of God and frequently crosses them. Philip Culbertson points out a contemporary relevance of the Abraham and Ishmael story. There are many men and women today who, due mostly to divorce, have two families with two sets of children. Their current spouse or former spouse tries to influence the relationship with your children like Sarah did. You feel pressured, caught between the demands of these spouses and your feelings for your children. To give one set of children all your attention, for example, is to cause grievance to the other set. As for wills, legacies, etc., there is potential for much bitterness. The man or woman in this predicament is conflicted by a desire to express their love for all their children, to express their love for their current spouse, to do what is right and just, and to feel loved and rewarded in turn. There's significant potential for getting it wrong. What I like about the Abraham saga is that the authors do not shy away from revealing not only their hero's faith, but also his failures. Abraham, in abdicating his patriarchal power to Sarah, in listening to his God instead of his heart, in doing what was expedient rather than what was right, grievously wronged his firstborn, Ishmael, and seeded an enmity between the ancestors of Ishmael and Isaac that continue today, and I refer to Arabs and Jews. Abraham screwed up. He failed as a family man. He failed as a patriarch. He didn't question the motives of the God he was listening to. His faith froze, and he became a servant of circumstance. Yet there is also something wonderful about the biblical editors leaving all this in for us to learn from. There's a message here that the faithful do fail, often with irrevocable consequences. The faithful do screw up, and usually the screw-ups can't be put right. Spiritual growth is all about stepping out, risking uncertainty, putting a foot wrong in order to put a foot forward. As Joy Cowley says, people who don't make mistakes don't make anything. If Abraham had stayed safely at home in Ur with the gods he knew, none of this would have probably happened. But he didn't. He took a risk, a series of risks, compelled by his understanding of God, fragmentary though that was. He risked being wounded, and he was wounded in the heart. A life of faith and a wounded heart are often companions together on the spiritual journey.